Episode 16. Creating Psychological Need. One of the most crucial skills in the seducer's arsenal is the ability to create a psychological need or wound in their target before attempting to satisfy that need themselves. As Robert Greene outlines in his infamous work, The Art of Seduction, people are very difficult to seduce when they are already perfectly content and fulfilled. There has to be some pre-existing emptiness, anxiety, or source of discontent that the seducer can latch onto and implant themselves as the solution to. On the surface, we all like to think of ourselves as confident, self-assured individuals without any gaping insecurities or existential voids to fill. But the truth Greene exposes is that most people are at least semi-consciously plagued with self-doubt, feelings of inadequacy, boredom with their routines, and a vague sense that they are missing out on some greater adventure or higher actualization of their identity. The master seducer simply has to subtly aggravate and bring those latent anxieties to the forefront. One of the most overt and brutal ways to do this is through personal criticism and undermining, as exemplified by D.H. Lawrence's toxic interactions with his romantic targets. Lawrence would spend weeks, even months, earning a woman's trust and intimacy through long walks, intense discussions about literature and philosophy, and sharing of deep confidences. He allowed them to feel they had developed a profound spiritual bond. Then, when they were fully at ease and had dropped their psychological guard, Lawrence would suddenly and shockingly demolish that bond by picking apart her persona with almost sadistic precision. To the shy, reserved Jessie Chambers, Lawrence cruelly mocked her as cold, passive, and completely inadequate as a future wife, playing on her inexperience with love and relationships. What kind of wife would you make anyway? A man needs more than just talk, he sneered after a year of close friendship, reducing her to tears as he compared her to a nun devoid of sexuality. With the young, bubbly Ivy Lowe, Lawrence lulled her into thinking he saw her as a kindred free spirit and bohemian intellectual, only to then launch a shocking, vicious assault on her character seemingly from out of nowhere. "You are so unspontaneous, so predictable, less a human being than an automaton going through the motions," he berated her. These brutal criticisms, striking at each woman's rawest insecurities and sense of identity, created a gaping wound of self-doubt and dismantled any feelings of confidence or complacency they may have had. This opened them up to be seduced by Lawrence, positioning himself as the missing piece that could heal that wound he had just inflicted. Within weeks, both women admitted to feelings of intense love, desire, and complete obsession with the man who had just eviscerated their self-confidence and independence. For those who lack Lawrence's arrogant sadism and skill at emotional manipulation, a more subtle tactic is to make targets feel that their life and social circle is uninteresting, stagnant, or lacking in some exotic quality compared to the seducer's perceived world and identity. The classic archetype is the dashing Don Juan figure who seduces naive provincial women simply through his dress, carriage, and easy disdain for the rude country bumpkins around him. In Molière's play, Don Juan, the title character effortlessly turns the head of a young woman named Charlotta, who is already engaged to a humble peasant named Pierrot. Don Juan swaggers up in his finery and exotic clothing, casually scoffing. "What? Should such a one as you be wife to a peasant? No, no. That's a profanation of so much beauty." With just a few comments implying this small village has failed to properly appreciate her charms which he alone can rescue her from, he instantly plants a seed of insecurity. "Heaven brought me hither on purpose to hinder this marriage and do justice to your charms." The intrigue comes not from the substance of his words, but from the way he signals being part of a grander, more electrifying world beyond her narrow, mundane experience. Dressed in drab clothes, resigned to life as Pierrot's wife one moment, Charlotta is suddenly fantasizing about running away with this exotic, refined stranger offering to deliver you from this miserable place and put you in the condition you deserve. By subtly making her feel her current life is pitiable and oppressive, Don Juan has created the wound he can bind by seducing her into his cosmopolitan orbit. An especially potent method of creating discontent is to remind targets of how far they have strayed from the ambitious ideals, spontaneity, and uncompromising sense of identity they possessed in their youth. We all accumulate regrets and compromises as we age, and feel we have sold out in some sense from our younger selves' convictions. The seducer who can deftly resuscitate this anguished awareness of seeming to have lost their way can position themselves as a symbolic re-immersion in those jettisoned values and the person's truest self. This is the reason youth itself can be a powerful aphrodisiac to the aging. When the virile young Earl of Essex, with his charming lack of courtly affectation, teased and flirted with the elderly Queen Elizabeth I, he represented everything her formal, constrained life on the throne had caused her to repress from her younger years. His playful criticisms of her lack of feminine charms and sourness personified the impulsive spirit, sexualized vitality, and thirst for adventure Elizabeth had been forced to sacrifice in accepting the immense responsibility and pressure of ruling an empire. Being around Essex's boyish spontaneity and lack of deference allowed Elizabeth to temporarily recapture that carefree, unburdened part of herself she missed desperately. He had tapped into the wound of her youth's wildness, having calcified over decades into joyless duty and decorum. After years of militant self-control, Elizabeth found herself helplessly infatuated with Essex's symbolic power to re-immerse her in the exhilarating sense of possibility she had lost. He created the need for such unconditionality in her life by first creating a perceived void or lack in their target's self-conception. Master seducers from Lawrence to Don Juan to Queen Elizabeth's courtiers employ a masterfully subtle form of psychological manipulation. They skillfully aggravate and bring to the surface the universal human anxieties about inadequacy, boredom, and having compromised one's youthful identities and ambitions. Then, once this wound of insecurity has been lanced, they can position themselves as the unique, exotic solution to fill that void and become the embodiment of a more electrifying existence. Manufactured discontent is a key part of their seductive craft. Now, something important. Make it a daily habit to learn something truly beneficial that enhances your life. Remember, the content you feed your mind is like nourishment for your brain. Be deliberate in your choices. Otherwise, be wary. Algorithms are often crafted to manipulate your thoughts. Reflect on that. Now, we're excited to announce that we're now welcoming contributions through subscriptions to aid our upcoming projects and bring you exceptional content. Join us by subscribing today.